Hello everybody, James Williams here for Sports Minded, and just going to give you guys a quick preview of the Miami Dolphins before they have their preseason opener game tonight in the Hall of Fame game against the Dallas Cowboys. The game will be played at a neutral site, more or less, with the Cowboys and the Dolphins playing in Canton, Ohio. We had the Hall of Fame ceremony yesterday with Chris Carter, Larry Allen, Warren Sapp, Bill Parcells, and all of those guys. So congratulations to them, and let's get down to previewing the Miami Dolphins. Speaking of the Miami Dolphins, after making the playoffs in 2008, the Miami Dolphins have been unable to return and make the playoffs since then. The team had won 11 games that season when they did make the playoffs in 2008, but since then they've only been able to follow up with one 6-win season smashed in between 3 seasons in which the team had 7 wins. So 3 7-win seasons and a 6-win season after that 2008 11-win season. Speaking of one of their 3 7-win seasons came last year in 2012 when the team went 7-9. It was the first season for head coach Joe Philbin, if I'm not mistaken. And they finished probably not where they wanted to in the AFC, of course. They didn't in the AFC East, I believe they're in. East, I believe. We'll go with the East. I don't know for sure. I'll have to get back to you guys on that one. But they're in there with the Patriots and all those other good teams. So what can you expect from them with such talented teams in their own division? Jake Long was one of their key losses this season. Interesting note about him, he was the only player left on the roster from the 2008 rookie class that the team drafted. But now, 9 players. He was one of 9 players, and now that he's not there, none of those guys that were drafted by the team in 2008 are no longer on the roster. So you can see where they've been making changes even since 2008, and that may be part of the reason why they used, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where they had that slump where they won 11 games in 2008, and since then they've kind of been stuck in this 7-6-win mark. With that being said, Jake Long is now with the Rams. He's playing offensive tackle for them. Someone else that the Dolphins did lose this offseason was Carlos Dansby, who was a linebacker, and he's now with the Cardinals. I believe he was even with the Cardinals prior to him going to Miami, if I'm not mistaken. Some of the key additions for the team this season, going into this season, 2 of the players are from that I'm going to highlight in this are offensive players. They got Dustin Keller, who was a tight end with the Jets. He was pretty solid with them. I think he may have gotten injured a season or 2 ago and has kind of been on a little bit of a slump. Hasn't been the name and the tight end I think he's been prior to any kind of injury he had. Then you also had Mike Wallace, who was a big sign for them. They got him from the Steelers. He's a wide receiver, and I'll speak more about Mike Wallace in a minute. But just going off to some of they kind of had a real quiet offseason other than the losses they had and the additions they had, but no real drama that comes off the top of the head for them, so that's always a good thing. They did make a bit of a splash in the draft. That's where all their offseason stuff was. They got Dion Jordan, who was a defensive end. He came from the University of Oregon. He was the number 3 overall pick in the first round. He was taken by the Dolphins after they moved up in the draft. I believe they had quite a bit of picks, and they were able to make a move and get up there. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him this season. Of course, being that high of a pick, you would expect Jordan to start, and that would put him right on the opposite end of the defensive line from the defensive star of the Dolphins, Cameron Wake, who had like 3 forced fumbles last season and really has been the anchor of that defense. In the second round, they stayed. They kind of went with defense for the additions I made. That they went off-season veterans to kind of go around with their quarterback, who I'll speak about in a minute. That's where Wallace and Keller played in. But they didn't mind going young in the draft and on the defensive end. They got a few players, especially as I'm going to show you here with their first round. They got defensive end Dion Jordan, and in their second round, they went with Jamar Taylor, who was a cornerback from Boise State. Taylor may prove to actually be a gem for the team after being picked in the second round. Some scouts have even considered him one of the more underrated corners when it comes to zone coverage and whatnot. Taylor has made a number of key plays when he was at Boise. Of course, with him that being why he got drafted as high as he did. Those key plays for Boise is something that I'm sure the Dolphins will hope carry over for them as he makes his big leap into the next level of the NFL. My predictions going forward for the team, especially just for this season, I kind of see them going 8-8. If everything really just falls into place for them and Ryan Tannehill doesn't suffer any sort of sophomore slump at the quarterback position, I would expect them to go 8-8 in the regular season. But don't be surprised if you see them kind of wiggle their way in there and try and fight for a playoff spot at the end of the season. Something else you may want to watch out for, and this is as I kind of threw out there earlier, with Mike Wallace being a new addition for the team, it'll be interesting to see what his chemistry will be like in Miami as he's now with Ryan Tannehill. Of course, Mike Wallace was catching any throws that were thrown his way from Ben Roethlisberger when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but now that he signed that big deal and is with the Miami Dolphins, it'll be interesting to see what chemistry was developed between Tannehill and Wallace during the offseason and how that will translate into their first season together. This could be something special going forward, especially if both guys are healthy and whatnot, because both guys are rather young. I believe Wallace may have only been in the league now for 3 or 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. And with this being Tannehill's second season, it'll be interesting to watch out how that plays out. And with that being said, this is also the second season, as I mentioned before, for their head coach. So, they addressed a lot of defensive positions through the draft. They signed a bunch of key players from on offense through the free agency period. So you kind of have a mixture of a young and some veteran. They brought in some veteran guys that just surround Tannehill, but then they also are willing to build around Cameron Wake with the guys they got in on defense through the draft. So it'll be an interesting season, and this will definitely be a team to watch out for going forward. Not only this season, but going forward into next season and the following season after that, especially if Dion Jordan becomes the caliber player that Cameron Wake is. You want to speak about some sort of a pairing right there with Wallace and Tannehill. They got another pairing with Wake and Jordan on the defensive end as well, so that's something else you want to keep an eye out for. With that being said, we'll see how a lot of this kind of plays out today. You probably won't see a lot of the starters right off the bat, but I'm sure Dion Jordan may get a shot or two, may get a few plays in tonight's Hall of Fame game. As I mentioned earlier, they will be playing the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think Tony Romo will be playing in that game, so we'll see. We'll get a taste of what they've been able to do. You won't see a whole lot of anything special, but something to look out forward to tonight. Of course, with it being the first game of the 2013 NFL season. Of course, it's preseason, but I'm sure there's a lot of fans dying to see some football. So with that being said, enjoy tonight's game. Enjoy the week leading up to it. I'll have more videos this next week as we get ready for more preseason games and the NFL regular season. With that being said, I am James Williams for Sports Minded. Don't forget to check out the website, sportsmindednews.com, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter, sports_minded. Have a great day, and enjoy everything that is going on in the sports world.